That's on BBC Two in 5 minutes. Well, here on BBC One, Nick Ross and Sue Cook present our monthly Crimewatch UK.
Good evening. Despite a larger than average number of calls during last month's programme, there's actually not a lot we can say just at the moment, but we can report developments on the death of Richard Miles. Stroud Police are following up information from several viewers, and 2 calls in particular have led them to South Wales, so we'll keep you posted on that. Detectives in Suffolk are so far no further forward with their investigations into the murder of Doris Shelley, but there is news on the attack at Ike Post Office a few miles away. Several viewers recognised the man on the security video we showed. 2 men have been charged for 2 separate incidents, one with burglary and the other with attempted murder and robbery.
Our first case tonight is murder, and very nearly multiple murder. For whoever killed a local government official 4 months ago almost blew up a block of flats and all its residents. The dead man was Bulik Forsythe. Detectives hope tonight to find the motive and the culprit.
Is anyone in there?
Well, I don't know. Mr. Forsythe lives there. If he's in or not, I don't know.
Oh, there's someone in there. Get a move on. Get in here, Sam! Find the meter! Lock it up! We've got a body in here, Sam! There's a body in here, Gov! One man found in back bedroom, apparently dead.
The fire had been started deliberately. The dead man was 42-year-old Bulik Forsythe, and he'd been murdered, beaten repeatedly and savagely around the head.
Morning.
Morning.
Oh, Edna. I've just walked through the car park. It's a complete mess. There's cars blocking in social work.
Bulik worked for Lambeth Social Services at our headquarters in Clapham for over 4 years. Although he was considered by some people to be rather overzealous, in fact, his bark was much worse than his bite.
This morning, I came through the yard. There were cars wrongly parked, blocking other people in. Social services cars can't get out in an emergency.
Amongst his responsibilities were premises management of some 10 social services buildings around the borough. He was a very conscientious and efficient office manager. And in fact, senior management in social services often asked him to write important policy documents on health and safety procedures. I would say that he had a very genuine concern for the welfare of staff.
Hello? Yes. Bulik Forsythe speaking.
We generally heard very little from him about his private life. Really, he kept very much to himself on those matters.
Bulik moved to Foster Court in South London 4 years ago. In 1990, he'd married an American, but he loved his job too much to emigrate. So his wife, now pregnant, was planning to join him in Britain.
Oh, I'm fine. Thank you, Mrs. Harris.
Their baby was due in May.
I'm so overjoyed at the moment to think that at 42, I'll be having my first child with you.
He was very excited and said, Dee, I can't believe this. At my age, I'm going to be a father. He said, somebody up there must love me. I said, please, don't you tell anyone until I'm sure. But I guess I should have told him to tell the world, because as soon as I hung up, he called my mom, he called his friends, and I heard he went to the pub, and he told everyone. Bulik was easygoing, loved to party, loved his music, and loved to play pool. And I guess on his job, most people never saw that side of him.
In fact, while Dawn was in America, Bulik, or John as some friends knew him, may have been quite lonely. Few colleagues at work were close to him, but he had several friends from Clapham, some from the gay scene, and several visited his flat. Please call if you knew him. For some months before his death, Bulik had often been seen with two men at an off-licence just across the road from his flat. One man always stood near the doorway, while the other seemed equally keen not to be recorded by the shop's security camera. The owner remembers this man as scruffy in blue, tight-fitting jeans and a casual jacket. He was about 25 years old, 6 feet tall, with blue eyes and unkempt fair hair.
Are you up already, Bulik? It's only 4:45.
Yes, I've just finished working on this report now, and I've been at it for 6 weeks, but it's all done. Really pleased. So I'm going to get an early night.
Bulik was last seen alive leaving the council offices around 5 p.m. on Wednesday, February the 24th.
Every morning I hear the alarm of Mr. Forsythe go off, because my bedroom is above his bedroom. But this morning I didn't hear the alarm. And then when I went out at 9 o'clock, I saw his curtains open. And that was unusual, because mostly his curtains are drawn at that time in the morning.
Edna, have you seen Bulik this morning?
Is he expecting you?
Well, not really, but I'm a little bit worried because he's normally here by now.
While his colleagues were trying to contact him, Bulik's flat may have been having visitors. A local resident recalls,
I was going over the paper shop to buy a paper, and I saw 3 men was coming out of Foster Court round the front there. They was carrying some briefcase and some folders in their hands. Why I noticed them? Because they look official. I never saw them here before.
if you were one of those 3 men, the police would dearly like to hear from you. 4 hours later, just before 2 o'clock, the same resident who'd seen visitors at the front noticed something unusual at the back of Bulik's flats.
I saw a white car parked there in the corner with 2 men sitting in it, and they was gazing at me. They're well dressed, and one of them have black hair, the other one have a brownish hair. I live here for 18 years, and I never see a car parked there before.
Come on, Bulik, answer the phone. Mike, I'm getting concerned about Bulik. I'm going to go around to the flat later, see if he's okay.
When she got there at 5 p.m, Bulik's curtains had been closed. Someone had obviously been in the flat that day.
Bulik! Bulik! Are you in there? Open the door, Bulik!
Bulik was probably inside, but almost certainly now dead. Then, later on that night, a resident in Foster Court was disturbed by a commotion.
It was about 1 o'clock in the morning. I remember looking at the clock. I heard running at the back of the flats, quite heavy footsteps.
The gas failed to explode, and Bulik's neighbour woke up an hour later.
Oh my God, there's a fire. Fire brigade. Fire brigade. Please call. I would like to know why he was murdered. And for my sake, my baby's sake, and his family, we all want to know why.
If you know anything that could suggest a motive for Bulik Forsythe's death, do please ring. And with this man, a friend perhaps called Steve, who's maybe a bicycle courier, call as well. Or were you one of the 2 friends seen with Bulik in the off-licence? Can you help eliminate the 3 men who were leaving Foster Court? We know some documentation is missing from Bulik's flat. It could be personal or it could be connected with his work. Do you know where it is? Or have you been offered Bulik's watch, a silver Rolex Oyster model, R16220A7? Who would be so crazy as to set fire to a building in the dead of night with families asleep in all the other flats? Detective Superintendent Brian Tompkins is waiting for your call, or you can ring another number, the Murder Inquiry Room at Gypsy Hill, 071 326 1212. That's 071 326 1212.
This next case is one of the most frightening crimes, but also one of the most unusual. It's the robbery of a couple in their home one evening last March, and police believe the robbers were acting on particular information from someone connected with the couple's business. Ron and Sheila have been market traders for nearly 15 years, but they went into semi-retirement after Ron suffered a heart attack just before Christmas. Our reconstruction begins near Horsham at the market where they now work 2 or 3 days a week.
Can I help you, love?
Hello there, yeah, I was just looking at that jacket there.
Oh,
This one, actually, isn't it?
This one?
Been in the fashion business for a number of years, and we enjoy it, and no 2 days are never the same.
So,
I love my business, really love doing what we're doing, and that's good enough for me to have in life, you know, I'm pleased with that. I don't want much more than that from life.
Since Ron's heart attack, the couple had been spending much more time at home. They live on the outskirts of Horsham, in a little village called Five Oaks. Their young grandchildren live nearby.
What we like about it is there is so much room that when the grandchildren do come, they can just run wild.
Hey, what you stopping for? You got all the rest of it to do, yeah? Hey, look, I'm going in the house, pack a few boxes, all right? All right.
That is the whole object of it, to sort of have the freedom for them.
Bye-bye, you two.
Inflation is low.
Tuesday the 16th of March. It was budget day.
And the budget
Suppose we'll have the budget on TV all night tonight.
But is also now back in.
Half a mile away on the A29 London to Bognor Road is a little chef.
Yes, sir.
It's now about 8:30 in the evening.
Would you like a tea and coffee while you're reading the menu?
I'll have one of these and hot chocolate.
Right, I'll get that straight. He ordered scones, jam and cream. I thought it was very unusual for a man to be ordering something like that, and straight away I became suspicious. I would describe him as 5'7", medium build, quite nice looking man. And I noticed he had a Cockney accent.
40 minutes later, he still showed no sign of leaving.
Is everything all right? Can I get you another drink?
No, I'm just waiting for some friends.
I did feel that he wanted to be left alone. He made it quite clear that he was waiting for other people and he didn't want anything else.
Police in Calcutta say that at least 25 people have been killed in
Hello?
the blast in the centre of the city.
Hello?
Scores are injured and many more are trapped in the rubble.
Must be a wrong number.
The blast was caused by a bomb. 4 days ago,
Would say something rather than put the phone down. At 9:45, 3 men walked quite quickly into the restaurant, over to the man sitting on table 2. They seemed to know each other very well. The first 2 men were good 6-footers, one with dark hair, one with blonde hair, and behind was a man much shorter, quite stocky, in his late 50s. The 4 men left at about 10:20. I always cash up when the last customer is gone, and I didn't want to take the till out while he was still there.
I think I'll get to bed.
Yeah, I think I'll come up too.
What's that? Jesus Christ!
How's that?
Well, get back! Christ! What's going on? What's happening? Did I go through? Did I go through?
I didn't have time!
Oh! Put your arms behind your back.
Emergency, which service? Do you require the police? Hello?
Police emergency?
Brighton here. I've just had a 999 call from a house in Five Oaks, Sussex. I've asked if they require the police, but all I can hear is a lot of shouting.
Where is it? Where's what? What do you want about? Don't give me that! Where's the money?
I was just terrified. I just didn't know what was happening. I had one over me constantly while the other one was looking for the money. He was approximately 6'2". His age would have been 30 or very early 30s, you know.
The couple's ordeal lasted 11 minutes, and emergency services recorded it all. Can you recognise any of these voices?
I said, turn round the other way. What do you kettle? You be a good chap, you'll be all right. You got it? Don't keep looking at me, turn it off.
Coach Cottage at 5 Oaks. Can you attend?
Yeah, all received by November Papa 13 en route.
Tell me where the girl is and no one's going to get hurt.
I don't know what you mean. Please, just don't hurt running. There were so many things that he seemed to know about us. They knew we'd just come back from a trip to Scotland. They knew Ron had had the heart attack. They let me know they knew more than they should have done.
I was terrified, and I really thought at the end of the day they would have to kill me.
Gaffers, out now!
The men ran off into the field behind the house.
My husband's inside! It's all right, I'm all right. I'm all right.
In a garden across the fields, they began discarding anything which could connect them with the crime, including this knuckle duster.
About 20, late 20s, I'd say, but
Money doesn't really bother me, but it has left a nasty scar on my life, which I will never forget, and I just hope that these people get caught.
Mr. Wyeth, obviously that tape recorded by the emergency services is the best lead you've got.
Yes, it's an excellent piece of evidence. There's about 11 minutes of the offenders' voices. They're very distinctive on there. We can see that one of them is a Cockney, uses expressions such as gaffers for police.
We've got a short clip we can play. We have to listen very carefully, but see if you can recognise these voices.
Got it. And the fat bastard wouldn't turn me like that. Got it. Turn me the other way. I don't even look at you. I said, turn me the other way. Stop. Yeah. Where's your kettle? Be a good chap, you'll be all right. Got it?
Having listened to all 11 minutes of the tape, what else can you tell us about what went on and what those voices are?
Well, there are other Cockney expressions, like the use of the word jam for car. It also appears one of them may be called Bob.
Now, they discarded all kinds of objects as they fled. These are just a few of them that you brought in.
Yes, indeed. We've recovered their weapons, a single and double-barrelled sawn-off shotgun, an imitation revolver there. It's a Magnum 9mm, a very distinctive brass knuckle duster with the figure of a female on it, some tape that was used to bind Ron's ankles with a price label on. We'd like to know where that came from, jemmies, and various clothing that they threw as they left the scene and as they travelled away, we believe in a vehicle along the A264. A leather jacket, this bag that was possibly headgear, there's a Cloth Kits label on there, and some shoes, both size 8, size 8.5, Reebok Tech 1. The Tech 1 heavily covered in paint.
And fairly battered looking.
Yes, indeed.
What about the car they would have used?
Yes, so we can't be sure, but we recovered a plate of a vehicle. This plate here relates to a stolen Ford Escort Poplar van, stolen from Brighton in June of last year. Could be the getaway vehicle. It
could or it could not. Right, well, if you can help with any of the details connected with this crime, please do call us. There's a reward, by the way. The studio number, once again, here is 081 811 8181. Or Mr. Wyeth's colleagues are manning the phones back at headquarters, which you can ring direct on 0403 273 733. That's 0403, the code for Horsham, 273 733.
Now to Photocall, our gallery of faces wanted by the police. This is last month's album. There's been progress on 2 cases. Indeed, one of them's fogged out because the woman has been arrested. She surrendered herself to police after people recognised her on the programme, and she's since been charged on 3 counts of theft. This man was wanted in connection with a series of robberies linked by the M25, and no fewer than 25 callers gave the same name. A man answering that name left his home in Folkestone in a hurry on the night of the programme. Do call if you know where he is now. And please call too if you've seen Francis Joseph Tierney wanted in connection with a large drug seizure in Liverpool, or this man who threatened people with a gun in Lancaster. Here now is Superintendent David Hatcher and Detective Constable Jackie Hames to take us through this month's portraits.
First, these 2 men may have information about a series of credit card thefts and deceptions. Offices in St Albans and Windsor have been the target of thieves since last December. This solicitor's in Park Street, Windsor, was the first stop. On the 10th of December, a gold card was taken. Within hours, 2 men called at nearby Preston's Jewellers, where the stolen card is used to buy an expensive Cartier watch. Then accountants' offices in Victoria Street and Latimer Road, St Albans were the scene of more thefts. Credit cards were taken and later used to purchase thousands of pounds worth of video equipment. The same cards are being used here in Hogg Robinson's in Enfield, North London on the 23rd of February. The two men are attempting to buy foreign currency, but staff became suspicious and the men left empty-handed. Do you recognise them? They're both in their mid-20s to early 30s and 5'10" to 6 foot tall. This man has a tanned complexion and uses the name David Ellis, and on one occasion he wore glasses. This man has a larger build with light brown to blondish hair. If you can help, please call us tonight.
This is Simon Alistair Mason. Officers from 4 forces would like to speak to him about the use of fraudulent bankers' drafts. People advertising their cars for sale in magazines were contacted and persuaded to accept payment by bankers' draft. These turned out to be forged. It's estimated that car sellers across the country have lost over £60,000. We believe Mr Mason may have information on a number of high-performance cars, in particular a Lotus 7, registration number XRP 998S, last seen in Nottinghamshire, which he may still be driving. Simon Alistair Mason is 25, 5'10", slim with short black hair and a prominent nose. If you know where he is, please call.
Flying squad officers would like to speak to these men in connection with 2 jewellery robberies which took place earlier this year. In Vade Jewellers in Kingsbury Road, northwest London, a shop assistant was attacked just before 11 AM on Thursday the 7th of January. A large amount of expensive jewellery was taken. Then, a couple of hours later, these men were filmed acting suspiciously in a shop in Ealing Road, Wembley. They inquired about gold bracelets but left without making a purchase. 5 minutes later, Devji's Jewellers across the road was targeted. 3 men took some very valuable jewellery, but in their haste to escape, they dropped a hold-all bag with this distinctive Robbery logo. The first man's in his late teens to early 20s, between 5'10" and 6 foot tall. The second man is 20 to 25 and about 5'10" tall. The third man is again in his late teens, but smaller, about 5'8", with short hair. If you can help with any information, please call us.
We know who this man is, but not where he is. He's identified as 30-year-old Mark Gaskin. Mr Gaskin had a very busy few days in April. Here he is on the Thursday the 22nd, robbing a building society in Bournemouth. Just 4 days later, he's at work again, this time in Southampton, but his attempt failed. Not one to be put off, he visited the Bristol and West Building Society in Reading on Friday the 30th of April. But where is he now? If you can help with this or any of our other photocall cases, please call.
And the number to ring here is 081 811 8181. That's 081 811 8181. The calls are coming in here. Most of the calls we're taking so far have been on the murder of Bulik Forsythe. We've had a couple of names suggested for the men in the off licence, and also a couple of calls on the Rolex Oyster watch that Bulik owned. And there have been a couple of names also on the robbery in Horsham. Some names suggested for the gunman. More later.
Crimewatch is often asked to refresh cases other methods haven't reached, and that means the crimes we're asked to cover, sometimes fairly old ones. But it's extraordinary how good viewers' recollections turn out to be. Our next film is about a robbery that took place 6 months ago, the Saturday before Christmas. But the sequence of events goes back further still, to last July, in Brown Hills near Walsall in the West Midlands.
This car thief, who got the key posing as a potential customer, is known to the police, but won't say who he passed the car to. It turned up 5 months later, 100 miles away, at Morrisons supermarket in Halifax, West Yorkshire.
We always shop at Morrison on Keighley Road every Friday. We fill up with petrol after we've done our shopping, because the petrol station is in the back of Morrison.
This is Friday, the 18th of December at 5 p.m.
I'm just looking bored and I saw this white colour car standing there and had the bonnet open, and a man was working in it, and he kept looking to the security van all the time, and that was a bit suspicious. And what stuck in my mind was that mattress in the back of the car. I thought it's a bit funny, a mattress like that.
be lucky.
A few minutes later, about 5:05, this woman and her son were on their way to the supermarket.
I always shop at Morrisons. I usually go 2 or 3 times a week, and my son nearly always comes with me. He likes to come shopping, comes for the outing. I park my car in a fairly quiet part of the car park, a place I don't usually park. I pulled up at the side of a white car, and as I turned to get out of the car, I was startled when I realised there was a young man in the car at the side of me in the passenger seat. As I got out of my car, I noticed he put his left hand up to shield the side of his face, so I couldn't see his face, which I thought was rather odd, and made me notice him all the more. He may have been around 30-ish, quite sort of medium brown hair, nicely cut. I was only in the supermarket maybe 15, 20 minutes.
Outside, Securicor had arrived at the back entrance, while at the front...
As I came out with my son, I noticed the white Fiesta into another parking spot. But this time there were 2 men sat in the front. I felt sure they were up to something. I thought perhaps they were out to steal a car out of the car park.
It's pure supposition, but my feeling would be that they were probably going to do it that day and were stopped for some reason. Some armed robberies are opportunist armed robberies, and they are decided upon that morning when thieves get out of bed and have no money, put a gun in a car and go out and do a robbery, and I'm afraid it's as simple as that sometimes.
Control from Tango 37. We've just left the centre of Halifax and we'll be at Morrisons in 5 minutes. Over.
Saturday the 19th of December at 5:15 p.m.
And I was just shopping on my own. I saw this man. I thought he looked suspicious because he didn't have any shopping. He was about 30, about 5'8", pale complexion.
Requires assistance.
I've been attacked. All right. Yeah. Oh, no, he's got a gun.
A schoolboy saw the white Fiesta heading towards Cousin Lane. A police helicopter was overhead in moments, but the car escaped unseen until it got to Ramsden Wood.
Hello, am I through to the police? Yes, I don't know if you're interested, but I've just seen a white car driving very quickly towards the reservoir at Gib Lane.
The following morning, we brought the car out of the reservoir, and we would never have known to have come here if we hadn't had that phone call.
Detective Chief Inspector Lynn Toland's with us now, and that car, presumably, that you recovered from the reservoir is your best clue.
Yes, it is. We know that the person who stole the car didn't do the armed robbery because at the time of the armed robbery he was actually in prison. We don't know much about what happened to the car after that, but we do know that exactly 1 week before Christmas, on the 18th of December, that car was outside Morrisons supermarket in Halifax, and that the following day that car was present when the armed robbery was done.
So it was probably stored overnight somewhere in the Halifax area
It
that
could
night.
have been anywhere in the West Yorkshire area, but we don't think it was too far away from
With a
there.
mattress in the back. I mean, a pretty prominent thing
Yes,
to see a white Fiesta XR2 in the week before Christmas. The registration plates that they'd put on, E768GFV, somebody made up those, and obviously you'd like the garage that made those up to...
We would if they can remember making those up, yes. There's no name at all on them.
These are other things that were recovered by the car. These bolt cutters presumably used to get into towards the reservoir, the sledgehammer.
Yes.
More to the point, tell us about this comic book, the Robo Machine featuring the GoBots Annual 1986.
Well, this was found in the boot of the car, and it's got some children scribbling on it there. And we think it's possible that somebody could have got into the car with some children quite innocently and might remember this book belonging to them.
Right. That canister they took the money in, a security canister, of course, contains this sort of explosive red dye thing, and that went absolutely everywhere in the car, even when it was recovered from the water.
Yes, it
It
did.
was just red everywhere.
Yes.
Now, presumably the men would have been covered in that as well.
I think they would have been absolutely covered in it, and particularly on their hands and in the fingernails.
They tried using the mattress, but presumably the purpose of that was to absorb the dye, but it simply didn't work. So anybody who saw someone the week before Christmas coming all covered in red, the notes would presumably have been ruined, the money covered in red as well.
Yes.
There's quite a reward on this.
Yes, there is.
And it was a pretty nasty offence.
It was, and I'm quite sure that some loved one will know that her husband or boyfriend came home covered in dye, and I'd ask them to ring the police now, because this next time they do a robbery like this, it could be a murder.
Okay, the number here in the studio is 081 811 8181, or you can ring the incident room in Halifax direct on 0800 45 4000. That's 0800, a free phone number, 45 4000.
Well, now with some more appeals from around the UK, at the incident desk, as usual, our Superintendent David Hatcher and Detective Constable Jackie Hames.
First, officers from Warwickshire need your help to solve an armed robbery. On Thursday, the 11th of February, a post office van made a routine delivery to this sub-post office in Moseley Road, Kenilworth. On leaving the post office, the van driver and his partner were confronted by two men with handguns. The robbers ordered them to drive down Glasshouse Lane to a car park at the rear of the Warden's Cricket Club, where a getaway car was waiting. The gang then gagged and handcuffed them together and made off with a substantial amount of cash. The car, a white Vauxhall Astra, registration number K879WNM, was later found at a car park at Warwick University. Did you see them abandon it? The first man's in his late 30s, 5'7" to 5'10" tall, stocky with short dark hair. The other man is 40, 5'10", slim with a pock-marked face and mid-brown collar-length hair. And finally, the driver of the Astra was between 35 and 40, 5'9", medium build with dark brown collar-length hair. If you recognise any of these men, officers in Warwickshire would like to hear from you. The number to ring is 0926 451111. That's 0926, the code for Leamington Spa, 451111.
Can you help to identify this man who terrified and raped a 24-year-old woman on Friday the 14th of May? The woman drove her car into Nottingham city centre for an afternoon's shopping. At about 2:30, she parked here in the busy Broadmarsh car park in Collins Street. A man threatened her with a knife and forced her back into her own car and then subjected her to a 2.5-hour ordeal. We'd like your help in piecing together their journey. We know the car took this route to the Dunkirk flyover. The man's erratic driving angered the owner of a metallic brown car. It was possibly a Ford Sierra, and it gave chase for a short distance. Was that you? At some point in the journey, the man pulled off the main road onto a gravelled area where he raped the woman. He then drove her to this cash point in Derby Road along Eton and withdrew money from her account. This was at 4:20 p.m. He finally abandoned the woman and car at 5 p.m. on the Park Estate in Nottingham, where members of the public alerted the police. The attacker took the young woman's watch and purse, similar to these. That purse was posted back to her anonymously from Derby, so we'd like to hear from you if you know anything about that purse, or this man. He's in his mid to late 30s, 6 foot tall, slim, with blonde unkempt hair and unshaven. He was wearing a blouson type of jacket and blue jeans. He spoke with a Scottish accent. If you can help in any way, please call the police in Nottingham on 0602 482 999. That's 0602, the code for Nottingham, 482 999.
Here's the number in the studio again, 081 811 8181. That's 081 811 8181.
Our last case tonight is a murder in the West Country. In the early hours of Saturday, the 26th of March, a woman was reported missing from her home in Bristol. The following Sunday afternoon at Sharpness Docks, 20 miles away, a body was discovered. Investigating officers from the Gloucestershire Force arrived at the pathologist's lab for briefing.
This is a young white woman in her early 30s, about 5'1" tall, with long fair hair. The cause of death is compression of the neck.
The dead woman was identified as 32-year-old Carol Heather Clark from Bristol.
Carol was my youngest daughter. She was a happy sort of kiddie. Then as she got older, she had these ideas about going modelling and travelling and everything else. She went living in town. She got in a flat, and we noticed there were sort of behaviour changes with her. We thought she was getting into drugs, or we suspected it, and then gradually it did dawn on us that was in fact the case. Like, realising she was going on drugs, it is a nightmare really, and you just don't know how to cope with it.
To feed her drug addiction, Carol had taken to prostitution. She worked mainly at weekends, operating from the St Paul's area of Bristol, usually on the corner of Picton Street and Ashley Road.
Carol, she was a really good friend of mine, and she loved kids. I think she was like a child herself, like in lots of ways. And she really loved my little girl. She had a problem with drugs. That's an illness. I really do think she wanted to stop. And she wasn't a bad person.
Carol lived in Picton Street with her boyfriend.
Come home from work, bath would be running. She'd be happy to greet me, but she hadn't seen me all day. She'd be in an excited mood. She was a very independent girl. I didn't like what she was doing. She needed the money. She needed to control her own life. I used to just look out for her and protect her. Although she had a drug problem.
To get over her drug habit, Carol was being prescribed the heroin substitute methadone. Every Thursday, Carol would collect her week's supply, accompanied by her friend, Chris Myler, a psychologist.
I've known Carol for about 6 or 7 years now, and she'd come over once a week. I was trying to help her get over her drugs problem. And she had such courage and such determination. She was winning. And I'm full of admiration for her. And it was lovely to see her on that Thursday looking so happy and so full of optimism. She was really beginning to feel up together, and it showed.
Carol was still wearing her hair in this French plait the following day, the day she disappeared, Friday the 26th of March.
I arranged to go out that evening. Also, we arranged that I'd call her later on, early hours of the morning, to make sure she was okay. She was in a good mood that weekend. We arranged to do some parties, and she was in a happy mood.
Okay, I'm off now.
Be good. Hey, be careful.
See ya.
Carol nearly always wore this outfit when she was working. At about 11:30, a local couple on their way home remember seeing her.
We're driving home about 11:30. The car breaks down. We managed to coast it onto Picton Street, where I noticed a man and a woman talking. The man seems to be getting on the lady's nerves. He was about 5'11" to 6 foot, 28 to 30 years old. His hair was mousy coloured, swept back in natural waves. I can see she's very agitated. On Picton Street, I had the bonnet up, basically messing about with the car.
Hey, have you got a light, mate? Look, I don't smoke, all right? Yeah.
Right, I was really irritated. The man seemed to have been drinking. Eventually, I went over to the phone box to phone my dad. He came down and told us away. But while I was waiting for my dad to come down, which took a good 20 minutes, a white car pulled in. I could see she was talking to the driver, but I don't know what happened to her after that.
But by midnight, Carol was back at home.
Hi.
It's me. How you doing?
I'm cold, tired and hungry. When are you coming home?
Be about an hour, okay?
Can you get me a kebab?
Sure.
Bye.
Just here, mate.
Well, I got home about 2:20, early hours of Saturday morning. Gone into the flat. Everything looked normal. The lights were on.
Carol? Carol? Carol, here's your kebab.
It looked like she just stepped out. Her makeup's there and her handbag's there, her methadon's there. Everything looked normal. Then I saw the note, which states that she left at 1:30, 3 hours of Saturday morning, and that she'd be back at the latest about 2:30 a.m. So I waited till 4 a.m. in the morning. I knew that something was wrong. I was getting very concerned, getting agitated, because by that time, she would have phoned me if she had any problems.
Yeah, police, I'd like to report someone missing.
Some 5 hours later, that Saturday morning, about 20 miles away in Sharpness Docks, a local man noticed a couple in a Volvo.
When I saw the car, the couple appeared to be strangers to the area. The woman was looking round a lot, appeared agitated and seemed to have just woken up. The man was in his early 40s with short brown hair.
Less than 50 yards away from there, at 4 o'clock the following afternoon, Sunday the 28th of March, Carol's body was found.
Carol is gone. We've had to realise now that she is dead, but no way can we see why somebody should want to kill her like they did. And some days we can cope with it, some days we can't. It's like a nightmare. It just makes you feel numb and horrified all the time, like, you know.
Well, what do you think happened to Carol during those 36 hours or so between late Friday night and Sunday afternoon, Mr. Bennett?
Well, we know that she took a meal shortly after perhaps she left the Bristol area. It was a meal of potato, onion, perhaps some meat, and certainly a serving of peas, something like a samosa or perhaps a pasty, something like that. And we appeal to anyone who may have given her that sort of food, or whether there was anybody with her who may have supplied her that food that evening.
And somehow she got to Sharpness?
Yes, we have no sightings from her since about 11:30 to midnight that night, until perhaps on the Saturday morning.
She'd have had two problems. First of all, she would have been without her methadone supply, and secondly, she was an epileptic.
Yes, she would have become very anxious and perhaps even fallen asleep, and of course that has caused her considerable problems in the past.
Was falling asleep, that would tie in with what the man saw at Sharpness Docks, the couple with the Volvo?
Yes, and later on, of course, there was a vehicle seen in the area, a camper van, that we are also trying desperately to trace.
Right, so a camper van, people in a camper van like that might have seen that Volvo. It's very important that the man with the Volvo is found, isn't it?
Yes.
It was a busy weekend too.
Yes, it was a weekend where they're celebrating the Bristol and Avonmouth waterways, and also it was the weekend when the clocks went forward.
Right, and briefly, so her clothes are missing, the outfit she always wore.
Yes, this was a leather jacket and also a denim skirt. We've not found those clothing, and of course her cap.
Right, well, if you can help, if you recognise anything, this is the number in the studio to ring, 081 811 8181, or you can call John Bennett's headquarters direct, that's Stroud, 0453 766 311. That's 0453, the code for Stroud, 766 311.
A lot of, on this monitor behind me, a lot of calls being logged at the moment on the Bulik Forsythe murder. We know that we've got 3 suggestions for a possible identity of one of the chaps who was in the off-licence. That was the man at the front near the till. There's one chap who reckons he can identify Steve. We've got a friend of Bulik's who's suggesting a motive. He says that Bulik was trying to do an expose on some fraud at the time. We'll bring you more on that in the update if we can. On the Horsham robbery, tremendous response. 5 people have given identifications for one of the voices. We'll be playing that tape again in the update programme if you listen then. And the black tape, incidentally, we've now identified where that came from, we think.
Well, one last reminder of the number, 081 811 8181, for anything you've seen tonight on any of our cases. And the lines are open until 12:15. We're going to be back with more news, hopefully, in half an hour and a half, rather, at Crimewatch Update at 11:45.
I'm sorry it's so late, but it looks as though there's going to be quite a lot of things to report then. If you can't stay up, though, till then, Crimewatch is going to be taking a break till September. We hope to see you then. If you're heading off to bed, don't have nightmares, do sleep well. Good night.
Good night.